working with the team. Definitely there is, team coaching that can be done, but sometimes it's just individual one-on-one coaching with the leader, right? Either the founder or the co-founder team. The feedback is specific to their leadership. Of course, what you end up finding when you're getting that feedback is that the culture then trickles down, right? So often there is need for work with the team, and that can happen.
Welcome to Career Coaching Secrets, the podcast where we talk with successful career coaches on how they built their success and the hard lessons they learned along the way. My name is Davis Nguyen, and I'm the founder of Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, and even $100,000 weeks. Before Purple Circle, I've grown several 7- and 8-figure career coaching businesses myself, and have been a consultant at 2 career coaching businesses that are doing over $100 million each. Whether you're an established coach or building your practice for the first time, you'll discover the secrets to elevating your coaching business.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Career Coaching Secrets podcast. I'm your host, Regen, and today we're joined by Dr. Faith Cohen. She is an executive coach with deep roots in neuropsychology and over 30 years of clinical experience. Faith helps tech founders and C-suite leaders at fast-growth startups transform frustration into confident, emotionally intelligent leadership. With more than 40,000 hours of one-on-one coaching under her belt, she blends cutting-edge neuroscience with practical leadership tools to build inclusive, high-performing teams. From her early days at Outward Bound to mentoring at Techstars, Faith has dedicated her career to rewiring how leaders think, communicate, and perform under pressure. And it's a pleasure for me to have her on the podcast today. Welcome to the show, Faith.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure for us. I wanted to know, I always like to interview coaches who have been doing this for many years. So how did this all get, so how did you start this? What inspired you to become a coach and then start your own coaching business on the side as well?
Good question. So with 40,000 hours, that means I have been doing this for a very long time, but it started way back. My graduate school days were in the field of pediatric neuropsych. And this was long before we understood anything about neuroplasticity of the brain. So essentially, the long story short was I was working in a hospital for kids who were having traumatic brain injuries. And the last assessment that needed to be done was by us, the neuropsychologists, that were looking at their performance in terms of how they were functioning and having to tell parents really bad news that your kid after 9 months is functioning like this and will never function any differently afterwards. Long story short, that was so depressing. After I got my PhD, I decided I didn't ever want to do pediatric neuropsych ever again. I pivoted. I moved to a place in the United States called Boulder, Colorado, where it was a training ground for Olympic athletes. And I started getting into the work of performance enhancement. What was happening was a lot of work in understanding the neurophysiology of trauma and resilience. And this was being applied to performance enhancement. And not until about 2000, where we had the technology to actually look at how our brains function, did we understand that these techniques that were being used were now being validated and backed up by science. So it was really, really exciting. I kept all of my love for neuroscience, essentially. I started applying it that way. I then had a friend, so this was like really well into my career, who said, "Hey, Faith, you've got to get into executive coaching. Like, you really need to do this." And I was like, "Well, what's that?" So essentially, he got me involved. He coached me for a year, so I spent a whole year under his belt. And Boulder had this amazing incubator program called Techstars. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's pretty well known in the United States. And the members at the time were very keen on executive coaching. So they sponsored every incubator company to have their own executive coaches. I started there, totally fell in love. It was I don't know, it was just like a perfect meeting. It was an easy transfer of working with performers, Olympic athletes, to the minds of founders of startups. There's a lot of similarity in how they process information, how they think about success or performance and growth mindsets. So that was really fun. And then that just led me into the coaching career that I have today. So that was really the beginning and the start. And my niche has really been in the startup ecosystem. So not only do I work with founders, CEOs, and their executive teams, but also work with their VC partners. And we really make strong relationships with those partners as well. And to this day, I'm coaching both VCs as well as founders. Yeah.
So definitely a big change in what you were doing earlier days. Way less depressing, obviously. Maybe not
Very
depressing at
less,
all.
very less depressing. But all of that, study and continued study in understanding our nervous systems and understanding how we operate as individuals, how that translates to interpersonal skills, what happens as leaders in terms of when we show up in a way that's threatening versus not threatening, it all transfers. And it's just an amazing way to apply the same
Principles.
knowledge, if you
Mhm.
will, into a new one.
So throughout these years of doing executive coaching, which part of your coaching journey do you find the most rewarding since you started doing this?
Yeah. To me, it is taking someone into a deep transformation and or into a deep transformation. So I don't have a loyalty to a specific product or a specific industry. I definitely have boundaries of which industries I will not work in. Like if there's industry in making missiles or, in war of some sort, or something that's highly unethical, no, I'm not going to work in those industries. But for the most part, I'm agnostic to the industry, but more interested in the leader and if they're interested in their own growth. So that's the number one thing that excites me. And to take a leader from, someone who either is struggling in their leadership or uh, is at an inflection point because in case they're going from either a seed stage to an A, series A to B is sort of my sweet spot where you really have product market fit. And now you're executing, you're growing your team, and that need for really understanding how to lead a high performing team, how to hire a high performing team, all of those things is exciting. And to be the founder through those stages and to meet them, on the other side of that is extremely rewarding for me.
So just to give more depth to this, when it comes to the program that you offer to these leaders and the transformation they receive after, we talked about, you just mentioned like either strategy and tactical changes. In what levels are you working with these leaders? What are like usually the problems that they might be having and the solutions they
Yeah.
get?
Yeah. I like to think of the work that I do as really like a lifelong trusted advisor, where you're with this person and you're seeing around the corners and helping them see around the corners. And so that's sort of like the umbrella of how, I would see myself in relationship to the people that I'm working with, which means for me, which is why I love this so much, is that means I have to continuously stay educated and grow and learn myself. So it's a constant education and growing for me, which that's part of my personality and what I love. That's what keeps the work so interesting and fascinating. In terms of the types of challenges that I see leaders pattern recognize what I see, I think it comes in a couple of different areas. If there are co-founders, a big area that I tend to work on, and I have a number of clients right now in this bucket, is co-founder misalignment and really working through that conflict and helping co-founders manage challenging conflict and challenging conversations. So that's one bucket. The other bucket, like I mentioned, is when they're in fast and high growth. So they're hiring really quickly, their teams are growing really fast, They need help in how to find what are components for finding good talent, and then how to maintain your teams, how to retain your talent, and how to maintain high efficiency among those teams, and how to go through the growth that happens at that stage. So that would be another bucket. And then I would say perhaps a third bucket is just with the founder or the VC themselves, is their own leadership. So I believe in the importance of assessment and 360 feedback. We are only as good if it's just one-on-one of one data point. If it was just you and I coaching each, if I was just coaching you and I only had your story, that would be one data point, and we would have no idea how others perceive you. And so it's really important that we get 360 feedback, and I do that in two ways. I have a written 360 feedback that I use and love, and I can go into that in a moment because it's behavior based and it's not trait based. And then secondly, getting interview based 360 feedback where I'm getting just more deeply, from the team, and then applying that to a leadership plan. So the kind of coaching that I would do, I would say there's three different kinds of coaches, if you will, and I'll put myself in the bucket that I'm in. You may have your business therapy coach, which would look more like a therapist, where you're kind of analyzing your mother and your father and looking at your past. It's not useful when you're in fast growth startups. You've got to be, pivoting, making quick decisions, and getting to changes fast. And I don't touch it so well. It can work in understanding or becoming aware of things. That's not enough. That would not do it. That would not be enough. You have another bucket that's called the mentor or the advisor. These tend to be either past operators, past COOs that have decided they really want, or CEOs that have decided they really want to get into coaching, most likely because they've had a coach, or they've sold their company and they want to get into something different. They tend to give advice. They usually know about their subject matter expertise, but when it comes to sort of a systems level understanding of leadership, or understanding the human psyche, they don't have any knowledge or awareness of that. That's the other bucket. The bucket that I would put myself in is a much more of a structured yet responsive style of coaching, where we take that 360, this is where this comes in, we take that 360 feedback, we develop a leadership plan, we develop goals together, and we get into behaviors that we want to stop and behaviors that we want to start based on that feedback. And we use the sessions as our experiential playground, if you will, to do the responsive coaching and to get into the nitty gritty for how you are leading. And that would be the areas and sort of the framework that I work from. And then draped on top of that, if you will, or painted over that, is that I will conceptualize very readily with the understanding of the neuroscience and how as an organism and as a together. So understanding how humans, when we lead, how our resilience and our threat responses play in terms of how they interact and how we do and how we behave. So understanding human behavior from this neurophysiological standpoint. That makes sense.
I totally understand that. You also that when you're working with these leaders, you also to do maybe the 360 interviews or to get the team. Are you also working with their team, or it's only for the 360?
Yeah, no, it could be working with the team. Definitely there is, team coaching that can be done, but sometimes it's just individual one-on-one coaching with the leader, right? Either the founder or the co-founder team. The feedback is specific to their leadership. Of course, what you end up finding when you're getting that feedback is that the culture then trickles down, right? So often there is need for work with the team, and that can happen in a variety of different ways. That can happen in offsites, that can happen in a team of just a few people, perhaps just the co-founders, or just the small leadership team, which can happen more of an intended goal,
You also happen to work with CEOs of companies instead of like the founders themselves, for
Mhm,
companies that are mid to large size that
mhm,
the founders are not really involved. Do you
mhm.
happen to work with CEOs?
Yes, absolutely. And in fact, I wouldn't say that founders are not necessarily involved. Founders are always involved. It's their baby, unless they've really. And I guess it would be unless they've exited, they've totally had an acquisition. Of course, then perhaps the founders may not be involved. But usually, when there is a CEO and a founder has taken a step back, they're very involved in the brand. I mean, they definitely want to have their hands in on that brand and how that brand shows up. But in terms of CEOs um, and their operating, that's the majority of what I would say I'm doing, right? So I'm really working with
Mhm.
that CEO and their leadership and how they're managing their teams, themselves and their teams. Yeah.
And
Oftentimes, by the way, when we're talking about seed, Series A, Series B, are usually the CEO. Yeah,
usually, right?
usually. Yeah.
Cool. And when you like, how is this only one-on-one coaching with these founders? So basically, the reason why I asked also the question for CEOs is sometimes you'd be paid by if you're with the founder, you'd be paid by the founder directly. But if you're working like with a large company and just working with CEO, it means that the company will be paying for the CEO, right?
Yeah. In all those cases, the company would be paying. In all of the cases. Yes. Yes.
Ah,
I
okay,
mean, I
that
don't
makes.
have, I can count on like a few fingers, maybe one hand, in which a leader, CEO, founder self paid out of their own pocket.
Ah, I see. It's
Because it's
always a
their
company
leadership.
expense.
Yeah, no, no, no. Leadership development, they need in order to do their jobs, if you will, in order to do them well. Yeah.
Now I want to talk a little bit more about marketing. So where do people find you right now, or where do you find people in order to work with? So like what marketing channel is working best for you?
Yeah. I mean, my clients refer. I mean, so it has been this way historically. And I will tell you, I come from a line of doctors and Jewish doctors, to be specific. And in this way of how I was indoctrinated, if you will, is that selling yourself is considered unprofessional. And if you do good work, your clients will refer you. And that to be considered a highly respected professional, you do not market yourself and you do really good work and your clients refer you. Just note, this is how I was raised. It took me a long, to my chagrin, if you will, or to my dismay or lack of benefit, it has taken me a very long time in my life to even consider thinking about the concept of sales and marketing myself. It's no problem for me to do that for other people. But for myself, it has been definitely a journey, like a growth for me. Um, so I will say that one one major avenue is through my clients. And then there are points at which it's easy for me to say to my clients, I really think we've done powerful work together. I really love, working with you. Who else like you needs to know about the work that I do? And who might you consider thinking about for a referral? So that's one simple way that I go about marketing. Of course, I'm on LinkedIn, right? And I might post some things there. The other, I would say, high touch, and I like the high touch ways of marketing. When I'm working with founders and I'm working with CEOs, of course, they are my clientele to be VC backed. Part of that 360 assessment and part of that process is which allows me the relationship with the board. And once I get to know the board, those are VCs, and VCs have portfolio companies. So then I get to know those VCs, and they get to know my work, and then that becomes another referral, a very good referral source is through the VC network. And really it's relationship building is what I'm trying to say. So It's a systematic way of keeping alive relationships, knowing who I have spreadsheets of my pipeline, of who my past clients were, of who my VC relationships were, and keeping those relationships very top of mind and very alive.
So making sure not to burn bridges, basically, with
It's
people.
more about not burning bridges. It's more about keeping relationships alive. Like if
Active.
you have a friend who lives in the United States and you're in Europe, if you don't call and text and email, what's going to happen?
Yeah, the relationship dies.
So it's about being systematic and intentional and consistent. Literally, I have an assistant who helps me with this. I can't do this on my own.
Hmm.
I have homework every week of which I have to tap people and, you know, birthday cards, new baby hellos, Happy New Year, things like this, or just tap and say, "Hey, I haven't talked to you in a while. How are you doing?" Yeah.
Hmm.
So keeping relationships so that I'm top of mind, essentially.
Cool. Yeah, that is an interesting point you bring, that there's always some event that could start that conversation again and again with a person. So that is interesting. I really like the part where you said, um, when it comes to referrals, you could also ask current clients, so actively just ask if, so it's like you've been doing great work with this client. You can just ask if there's anyone else they know. They potentially might know a lot of other options, that like a lot of other people that they could refer, instead of waiting for a referral passively. That
I
is.
mean, I know for myself, I won't think of someone about a referral unless it comes up somewhere. So it's not like your clients wouldn't want to refer you, especially if you do amazing work. It's just that they don't think to do that. They wouldn't, that's not top of their mind. It's not until you do something to pull that for them,
Mhm.
right? And I've never gotten anything but a glowing yes. How can I, help you? Or I would like to help you, or I have a person for you. So I think we leave a lot on the table um, if we don't ask.
And when it comes to team structure, you mentioned an assistant. Is there anyone else that is helping you out?
Yeah. So I mean, my assistant is amazing, and I've trained her. she's she's phenomenal, and she keeps me on my toes. And I would say anyone out there who doesn't have either an EA or a chief of staff, you have to have one. Like it's just you just have to have one. It's there's no way I could do what I do without that person, because like you, I am in calls all day long. I'm not at my computer. I actually have to like time block periods of my week where I can get to the stuff, but I would never be able to get to it had she not set up all these systems, in advance. And then I've also, like I said, I have been a managing partner for a boutique coaching firm. The name of that firm is Newberg Gore, and we have had an amazing head of operations and basically, head of sales and pipeline. And so there's just a whole set of back end, top of funnel, you know, lead gen and ways to do to gather leads. And but again, I am partial. I will just say this: I am very partial to warm leads versus having a huge social media presence. And I would say that comes from how I myself go about finding all the professionals that I have in my life. I don't, if I'm looking for the best doctor, the best dentist, blah, 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 I'm usually a referral from a trusted
Mhm.
person. Then I go back and I do the research on that person. Not that I don't have social media. I believe that was it as more of a reference check as opposed to the first way we go about finding people, especially in these highly caretaking. I don't know what else to say, but in the highly high touch professional work that we're doing, which is coaching. Yeah.
Another question I'm thinking is, what is a goal that you're working on for the next 1 to 3 years? And also at the same time, what is a challenge that you're trying to solve for in the short term?
Yeah. Good question. Did you say 1 to 3 or 1 to 5?
1 to 3 years
One
for
to
the
three.
goal, for the challenge. It could be like
Yeah.
short-term challenge. Yeah.
Um, my goal in the next 1 to 3 years is to, honestly, I don't want to necessarily grow it by 2 or 3x. I probably need, I just need to, I don't even know how to put this into numbers, but grow it a little and maintain. I feel like a sweet spot right now, and I love my work life at the moment. I love the balance that I have, and I'm very satisfied with my lifestyle and how I have it
Mhm.
aligned. So it's more about growing a little and keeping things as they are. And when you said, what was the second part of the question again?
What is a challenge you're trying to solve for next?
Yeah, the challenge that I'm trying to solve for next. Right now, I can say this. I think this is okay. I am collaborating with two other amazing colleagues of mine to create um, a brand for women in specific. So the challenge is that we can actually bring in more female founders into the space because it's very male dominated, as well as more female VCs, and to help them specifically with their leadership in relation to a male dominated space and to provide the support there. I have been to a number of places, conferences, particularly in AI, in the space of, where it's heavy tech or heavy science, where you'll see a predominance of men and the women who are there, you know, literally are they literally just immediately encircle me with, oh my God, we need your help. Like this is a really hard space to be in, and we feel very alone. So that's the specific challenge right now. The other one I would say to you is my I would really like to be getting into more of the climate tech space, and helping companies in that space because it's a personal passion.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing all of that. And the final question is, I'm always looking at the time. The final question is, what advice would you give to other coaches who are trying to scale their impact?
To increase their clientele, or what?
The amount of lives they can touch with their
That,
coaching.
yeah. Well, clearly, one-on-one coaching is a slower way to do that. So if the goal is to touch as many lives, then I would say, I guess the question would really be, are we looking for breadth? Because if you're wanting to really change and do deep transformation work, that's going to be more on a one-to-one or a one-to-team basis. If you're wanting breadth, then I would say get into the space of webinars, get into the space. I think everyone should be doing offsites and working with executive teams. I think we have to. It, Definitely starting at the top and working with the top leadership, CEO or a co-founder is number one. From there, then you've got to really work with those executive teams, because then it trickles down into the rest of the culture and into the rest of the company. So in terms of depth and breadth, I would say that would be the way. If it's only breadth, if you're only trying to make a big splash, then you probably need to, utilize our technology. I will say this, and some words to live with, is I do not believe or think that AI will replace us. I think that we need to keep ourselves in the understanding that the human interaction and what we do on a one-to-one basis with each other is what keeps us going. You are not going to get from an AI chatbot the things that you need, that a coach, an executive coach in specific, who has had years of experience working with other human beings, is going to give you. So that's I know this deep in my bones. I have a lot of optimism around that.
I'm also optimistic about that because I feel like when it comes to AI, that's the part of human interaction, but there's also the AI will only understand what you're explaining. It will
Correct.
never see beyond what you see. So
Correct.
the coach can help you see beyond what you are actually seeing.
Well put, 100%, which is where we come back to those 360 assessments, right? Where not only can your coach see what you may not be able to see, but you're going to get other viewpoints that it's going to help you as well so that you can learn your blind spots and move beyond. Yeah.
Not to mention that actually, when you talk to it, it's always like agreeing with you in a way. It's like,
Right.
oh,
It can
well,
become
yeah,
because they don't disagree with you, right?
yeah. Hey, it never says, "Oh, that's wrong. That's terrible. That's what is that?" So
Exactly.
it's yeah, it's kind of weird.
It is.
Yes. Thank you so much for coming today. It was a pleasure to have you on the podcast. And yeah, for anyone who wants to connect with you or find you, they can go into LinkedIn and
Mhm.
look Faith Cohen. They'll be able to find you there.
Yes.
They'll be able also to find the links where they could book a call with you. There's also a website, drfaithcohen.com, meaning drfaithcohen.com, where they can go into. Is there any other way they could reach out to you?
Those are the two best ways. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Faith.
Thank you.
That's it for this episode of Career Coaching Secrets. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this episode to catch future episodes. This podcast was brought to you by Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, or even $100,000 weeks, all without burning out and making sure that you're making the impact and having the life that you want. To learn more about our community and how we can help you, visit joinpurplecircle.com.